Hi book besties, today I'm going to give you my top 10 book recommendations of all time. So if anyone ever asked me for recommendations, these are probably the books that I gave them. I have some different genres, like mostly romance, because like 90% of the books I read are romances. But I also have some thrillers, two, and one fantasy. The only fantasy that I have read so far. But yeah. Anyways, I don't know where I'm going to start. Maybe with a romance? Or maybe should I do by genre? Maybe that's better. Let's just start with fantasy. So the first recommendation that I have is the book that maybe got me into fantasy. I don't know if I'll ever, like, if that's my top genre now. I definitely will read more of these because I have two more on my TBR cards. Anyway, the first recommendation that I have is probably one of the most popular fantasy books that are online right now, and it's Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I don't really know how to explain this because, yeah. The terms that are used in fantasy books are more like difficult. Like you can understand them, but they're not words that you are going to keep in mind. So I'm just sneak some looks at the back. Anyway, so this book is about Peyton Gray and Kai Azer. And Kai Azer is the son of the king, like the prince, I guess, of Ilia. Ilia is the kingdom where the book is based. And you have the elites and the ordinaries. The elites have powers gifted to them by the plague. And those who are born ordinary are banished from the kingdom and shunned from society. So when Peyton Gray saves Kai Azer's life, she's thrown into the Purging Trials, a brutal competition showcasing the elite's powers, but nobody knows that she is an ordinary who is pretending to be a psychic, so someone who can read minds, I guess it was. I don't know for sure, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong by that. But if the trials and the opponents within them don't kill her, the prince she's fighting feelings for will, if he discovers what Peyton is. Completely ordinary. So this is book 1 in the trilogy of Powerless. Book 2 is called Reckless, and book 3, I don't know how it's called. I don't know if it's been announced how it's called. But there's also novella. I haven't read that. Sorry. But I don't know. I had no expectations, and honestly I was just thinking that I will not like this book, but I read it and I remember texting my friend who only reads fantasy and mystery and thrillers and stuff, like, why is this kind of good? Why is this good? So now here I am, probably buying the entire trilogy. This can perfectly be the first fantasy book you ever read, and you will totally get in the vibe of fantasy books. Some terms are kind of hard to understand, like to get in the story there are words being used, so sometimes you have to go back to the start where everything is explained again. But other than that, like when you're 50 pages in, you're sold, believe me. So yeah, definitely Powerless by Lauren Roberts. It's amazing. Next I'm going to do one of the genres that I only have 2 books from. And the first one is a classic. The TV series has just aired on Netflix and it's amazing, but the book is crazy good. So it's about a schoolgirl, Andy Bell, who was murdered 5 years ago by Sal Singh. The police know he did it, everyone knew he did it. The family of Sal Singh is now being treated like trash because everyone thinks that their son and brother was a murderer. And by having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Pippa Fitzimobi isn't so sure that Sal Singh was the murderer. So when she chooses the case as a topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pippa from the truth? So Pippa starts to solve the case, like starts to investigate the case to prove that Sal was innocent, and gets help from Sal's brother, Ravi. And they start to getting investigations and interview people and get all this evidence. And it's so good, written so good. It's amazing. So please read this book if you want to get into reading. It's amazing. It's perfect and literally, I don't know what else to say. Next I have book one of a series that is blowing up on the internet right now. I kind of want to cry, but like, it's so good that everyone deserves to read it. But I read it last November and it's amazing. I read the entire series in 1 week. It's crazy. And anyways, it's called The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This entire series is amazing. Full of plot twists and shocking moments. Like, I remember when I was posting on my story or my private story, I don't know what it was, like, how does she think like this? How does Jennifer Lynn Barnes get these ideas? These are amazing. The plot twists are crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so this book is book one in the series, and in this book, Cassie is being drafted to get into this program at the FBI called The Naturals, where teenagers who have like these special powers solve cold cases, and they need Cassie. So Cassie is a profiler, and then you have Michael, who can read emotions. Leah is a human lie detector. Sloane is an analyzer, and she can remember almost everything she hears or sees. And Dean is also a profiler. So the 5 of them are in the program, and they try to solve cold cases. I don't know if I've already said that. But then there's a new serial killer who is killing all these red-haired women. And Cassie's mother was murdered a few years ago when she was a kid. I don't know how old she was. But I don't think the killer was ever like found. So then they try to solve that case, and yeah, they solve it. They solve it. Again, I don't know how much more I have to say. This book is amazing. This entire series is amazing. And it's so fast paced, like you can read it so fast. It's not really fast paced, but you can read it so fast. And it's such a fun read. And now that fall is already coming, in a few months maybe, I feel like this is the perfect book to read when it's raining outside and there's a candle burning in your room with a sweater on. This is the perfect series to read. Like, this is your sign to buy this entire series because amazing. Then we are going to switch to romances. I still have a few. So, I don't know which one to start. Maybe I should start with the book that I did a reread of yesterday. It's a big one. Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. So it's about Raphael and Ellie. Ellie is the nanny for Raphael's son, Nico, and she's the live-in nanny and also his music teacher. So Nico has this condition that his vision gets less and less the more time passes. And the story starts with them not getting along, and then something happens where they have an argument about. She gets fired. He asks her to come back because Nico, his son, is miserable, and he's doing all of this stuff and canceling all of the other stuff going on, like his birthday party and the trip to Hawaii that the three of them were supposed to take, and he's canceling them so that his dad is hiring Ellie again. Okay, so then they go on this vacation to Hawaii. There they get closer, closer and closer. Yeah, but one of the things about this book is that it's not just a romance. Both of these characters have so much trauma and backstory that it's really beautiful to read about and really realistic to read about them. It's amazing, has so many beautiful moments. Like, I was rereading this. I read it first, I don't know, in July somewhere, and I reread it yesterday, the 13th of August, and I was still giggling and kicking my feet because this book is so beautiful, and tearing up also because, you know, I don't know what else to say about this book, but it's so amazing, and I wish everyone can read this book because Lauren Asher, I love you, and I love your talents. Then I feel like one of the most underrated books, for real. Like, I don't see anyone talking about that, and I don't know why, because I really like that. It's called The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and it's about Shay and Dominic, who work at the radio station in Seattle, and they have been clashing together, like, don't get along. Dominic has done a journalism course and convinced he knows everything about radio, but Shay has been working at the radio station for nearly a decade, and the station needs a new concept to, like, get more listeners, I suppose. And so Shay proposes the idea of the X-Talk. The X-Talk is a radio program where two exes give love advice to listeners live on the radio, like they can call and the exes give advice. And given they already despise each other, Shay and Dominic are the perfect co-hosts. Like, their boss is saying, you two, you are going to be the exes. But they have never dated. Like, they pretend to be exes because they don't like each other like exes do, and trick the listeners to be exes and give the listeners dating advice. But their show is a hit and is climbing the charts, so it's a huge success, but they are scared to tell the listeners that they haven't been dating and haven't been honest with the listeners. But now they are starting to fall for each other, and yeah. This is your sign. Go read this book because it isn't talked about enough. And yeah. So the next book is one I had such a high reaction of when I read it. Like, I was filming myself. I don't know why I was filming myself. But the reaction I had while reading one of these scenes, yeah, it was something. But anyway, the book is called Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. One thing about me is that I love Ellie Hazelwood's books. How have I annotated so much too? Like, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, I don't know. This book is about Elsie, who is a professor but has to have a second job. And so she offers her services as a fake girlfriend, tapping into her expertly honed people-pleasing skills to embody whichever version of herself the client needs. So she is a person to hire when people constantly ask you at family reunions, how's the dating life going? Like, no. So people hired her and she uses a fake last name and she tells people a different job than what she really is. So yeah, that's all fun and cool until her carefully constructed Elsie verse comes crashing down because Jack Smith, the annoyingly attractive and arrogant older brother of her favorite client, turns out to be the cold-hearted experimental physicist, I don't know how to pronounce that, who ruined her mentor's career and undermined the reputations of theorists everywhere. And he's the same Jack Smith who rules over the physics department at MIT, standing right between Elsie and her dream job. Elsie is prepared for an all-out war of scholarly sabotage, but those long, penetrating looks, not having to be anything other than her true self when she's with him, while falling into an experimentalist orbit, finally tempt her to put her most guarded theories on love into practice. So, the things I remember from this book are she stumbles upon Jack when she is interviewing for her dream job and he's like, what are you doing here? You work in a library. I think it was in a library, I don't know. She told Jack's brothers, so his family, so him including, that she is Elsie blah 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 with a different family name and that she works in a library. I don't know if it for sure if it was a library, but let's just keep it at that. So he's like, when he sees her at the interview, she's like, what are you doing here? You work in a library? She's like, I can't tell you because like Jack still thinks that she is dating his brother, but they're not really dating. And there's something Jack doesn't know, but Elsie doesn't want to break her client's trust. I don't know his name of Jack's brother. And when his brother tells him himself why they are like this and why she lied about her last name and her job, they get closer together and obviously get together, as you see on the cover. Play Along by Liz Stamford. Again, this book is everything to me. It was my first read of August and it was one of the easiest 5-star reads that I have ever given a book. It's my new comfort read, like one of my comfort reads for sure. It's about Kennedy and Isaiah. Isaiah is a professional athlete at the Windy City Warriors, the baseball club, and Kennedy is on the medical staff, I think, for the Windy City Warriors. So after a night out and a few drinks, which started by one, but then got more and more, they got drunk, got married in Vegas, of course. And to protect Kennedy's job because there was this one rule of not dating the players. They pretend they have been dating for a few years and it was a planned marriage, which it really wasn't. But to protect her job, they have to pretend the whole thing was planned. So yeah, they pretend and pretend and pretend. And Isaiah has been crushing on the team's athletic trainer, Kennedy K, for years. So he has been obsessed with her for years. So when she begs him in Vegas to marry her, of course he says yes. Of course he says yes. So he is proving the time that they have to pretend to be in love. Like they have been dating for years to prove her that he's husband material. Again, it's a really beautiful book. I don't know what else to say about it. Because the minute I finish a book, I forget what it's about. But again, beautiful. Please read it. Next, I think I talked about this book in my first video already. But this is my sign, and this is the video to talk about it again and more. Because this book, I don't know why I can't stop smiling, it's so annoying, has my heart. It's Redeemed by Lauren Asher. She's amazing. I love her so much. I love her work. I have read every single book that she has ever written. Never given it less than 4 stars. So these are all amazing for me. But yeah, anyway. Redeemed is about Chloe and Santiago. Santiago is a Formula 1 driver who got into an accident and had to amputate his leg. So he is currently hiding away from the world in his home. And yeah, so he's hiding away in his home until Chloe breaks into his home. Yeah, she breaks into his home in hope that she, like, in search of her long lost father. I don't know how it starts again, but like, so she breaks into his house, loses her phone, or like falls out of the tree she used to climb into the house, and lost her phone. So the next day she comes back, enters the house to get her phone back, but Santiago's sister and her family are in the house, so they pretend that they have been dating and that's why the reason why Santiago has been hiding away from the world and from his family. So the more they pretend, the easier our ruse becomes. I told myself not to fall in love with a liar like Santiago. I should have listened. And Santiago's point of view is, my new fake girlfriend is a temporary fix to my biggest problem, but as our games changes, so do my feelings. There's only one issue stopping me from claiming her, me. I feel like everyone has to read this book. It's amazing. I love it so much. And I feel like this is the only thing that I have said about every book so far, but this is truly one of my most favorite books ever. I feel like I'm going to cry talking about that. Okay, so the next book is also a fake dating, because I had to stay in that vibe. Also, again, so beautiful. I think all of these books are a recommendation because they are so beautiful, so I don't know why I'm still saying it after every book. But it's Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So Brianna and Jacob are working at a hospital. Jacob is the new doctor working at the hospital. All of the people at the hospital are saying that he's a bad doctor because all of his patients, I don't know if they died, but I think they did, because they work in the ER. And Brianna is like defending him and saying he's not a bad doctor, it's just bad luck. Or I don't know what else. They haven't talked together like one on one. They haven't talked to each other, just seen each other in the hallway. So when Brianna has to go to her boss to talk, he tells her that the promotion that she was like 99% sure that she would be given is going to be chosen later because he wants to give Jacob a chance to. So that's the moment that Brianna starts disliking, kind of hating. I don't know for sure if she hates him. Starts to dislike him, and he has no idea. He has no idea about the promotion, no idea about why she dislikes him. So when one moment she bumps into him and he drops his phone, I think it was, and his phone's broken. So he follows her to the room where she was headed, the room where her brother is staying because he has kidney problems, I think it was. And he's like entering the room and he was like, "Yo, you broke my phone." And she's like, "I don't care." I don't know exactly how it was going. So yeah, they dislike each other and blah 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 blah. But at one moment, because Jacob has this anxiety, and the anxiety in this book is so good portrayed and so beautifully written. It's crazy. It's beautiful. So he decides to write her a letter and explains her everything that he didn't know of the promotion. He's sorry for bumping, like yelling at her in front of her sick brother, and explaining to her about his anxiety. And so she forgives him. They start writing to each other, leaving post-its on each other's desks, on each other's lockers, meeting in, oh my god, I love that moment, meeting in like a little room because she knows he doesn't like big spaces, so she's like, "Come, we can meet in this little room where nobody else is." And yeah, it's beautiful. So he then hears about the kidney problems that her brother has, and he tests because it's this unique blood type that her brother has, so it's hard to find a donor. But of course, he is available to be a donor, like he has the right blood type. So he's like telling his friend and their superior, not the superior that said that about the promotion, but another one. He's telling his friend, like, "I can do it, I will do it, but I don't want Brianna to know because then she will be my friend because I gave her brother a kidney." And his friend is like, "Okay, let's do that." So of course she finds out and she's like, "How can I pay you back?" And he is needing a fake date or something for like, I don't know why exactly it was. So they end up fake dating, and this book is beautiful. I love it. So again, really beautiful book. The last recommendation that I have is also part of a series. It's called The Front Runner by Elsie Silver, and it's part of the Gold Rush Ranch series, and it's book 3. Yeah, book 3. And it's about Stefan and Mira, and let's just read the back for a minute because I have no idea what it was about anymore. Stefan Dalka is infuriatingly handsome and annoyingly persistent. We're supposed to hate each other, but apparently he didn't get the memo because he's been asking me out for years. And I always say no, until today. Today he has something that I desperately need. Today he's a savior and I'm his prize. Our time together starts as a simple transaction. 3 dates, no touching, no telling anyone, and definitely no falling in love. But with every intimate conversation and each stolen glance, the tension between us builds. The way he looks at me gives me butterflies, and when he finally touches me, we sizzle. Stefan makes me feel seen in a way no other person has before. He cherishes my words as passionately as my body. He makes me laugh, makes me blush, he calls me kitten. I forgot about that part. He's not the villain he's been made out to be, and suddenly I find myself longing for him in a way the people closest to me wouldn't approve of or understand. Giving in to Stefan Dalka is playing with fire, but with him I don't even mind the heat. So, I don't know how it was going exactly, but Stefan is this disliked person in the town and the ranch that Mira always also works at. Like, they all dislike him for some reason, and he's this misunderstood person. She needed his help. Let's just keep it at that. And he says, okay, when you go on 3 dates with me. And she's like, fine, we are not telling anyone, we are not touching each other, and we are not falling in love. But of course, they do, because they have these moments together and these conversations together that they start to understand each other way better than everyone else knows them. And it's insane. I love them so much. It has such a shocking moment at the end, and I love it so much. And I will continue to tell you that I love all of these books, and these are all beautiful. So, good luck when you reach book 3 in the Gold Rush Ranch series, because it's crazy. Okay, so these are all my go-to recommendations. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It will help this channel a lot. Like, comment if you have read any of these books. I think you will, because a lot of people have read at least one of these books. So yeah, if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, I don't know what else. And I'll see you next week. Bye!